Well guys, we made it. Another fantastic year of dooming. While I can't exactly say I've been here for most of it, all the more doom we've gotten is never a bad thing. I figured to celebrate, I'd take a closer look at some of the best and or most interesting creations we've had the pleasure of coming across, but with a twist. You see, I'm just a guy who hasn't had quite the attention span to embrace all the wonderful map sets and megawads that have graced the 2024 release, though I did get to play through some projects like Alphabet Doom, Into Sandy's Cities, Portraits of Doom, and of course Legacy of Rust. Okay, well maybe I played a few more than I imagined. But with that thought in mind, I figured it would be interesting to highlight some of the standalone levels we've received, seeing as they're often quick bites of joy and fit in nicely with the season of gift giving and little stocking stuffers. These releases, maybe in part due to their narrower scope, often fall through the cracks unless scooped up by that year's CAC awards, but I feel like even then they deserve more attention and they can be home to some incredible ideas and concepts, and not to mention provide some sneak previews of up and coming mappers with lots of potential. Also, this format isn't locked in stone, so while today I'm restricting myself to WODs with one main map, if I continue this into the future, I may also include standout levels from other WODs I've played that might not get a chance to receive a full review otherwise. So with that in mind, wrap yourself inside away from the cold winter weather, or in my case here down under, the harsh summer heat. And let's take a brief look at some of my favourite maps of 2024. And also a few from 2023 that I missed out on that were too good to not talk about. Okay, thank you. Alright, first up, bringing us through these dreary clouds is Altitude Adjustment, and yet while this one actually came out in 2023, it came out so late in the year it was easy to get swept away in the transition. Developed by longtime duo Dreadopp and Lord Z, this medium-length map sets the action in motion quickly, crashing you right into its main set piece, an airship of UAC's own design. Why do these guys even have an airship anyway? Couldn't they just leave the Hell Portal testing to outside in space and not within an arm's reach of the rest of humanity? Well, ignoring the sheer incompetence on display, this map is actually quite the opposite. Wonderfully paced and drenched in detailed set pieces, this level often leaves you to admire the sights, all while soaking in another excellently produced Jimmy MIDI. Keeping an eye on all the compact nooks and crannies you might otherwise glide past leaves a lot of fun and seamless secrets to discover while still leaving room for intense outdoor battles. All in all, Altitude Adjustment really shines in delivering fun, fair combat wrapped in an equally fun and polished presentation. Next we have the definition of insanity. Now, I didn't actually expect to be surprised as much as I was when I sat down to tackle this map. Published by fellow DoomTuber Klear, who I must say does some wonderful showcases of VR Doom online here as well, there's not a lot I can say without spoiling the fun of this map, but I'll give you the quick rundown. You, Doom Guy, has been thrown into a mental asylum and it's up to you to solve the mystery of your eternal attempted escape. There's not a lot that meets the eye here. In fact, on the surface this level is pretty cut and dry, just circling around some prison cells till you find the entrance, but if you dig down beneath the surface, you'll find a lot of boom trickery that makes this all work. Whether or not this concept has been done before, here it's been executed wonderfully, even if encounters are a tad flawed in some sections. Klear stated that this level was originally envisioned as a smaller piece of a much grander map set, and I can definitely see it slotting within that role. My only words of advice are that you better read the map's end text closely, and you should absolutely not pistol start this one. Okay, you know how I said there were some other maps from 2023 that was so good that I just had to talk about? Well, KWC's double-header release of Escape from Slime City and Hotfix 93 is absolutely one of them. First off, these maps feel like KWC was challenging that idea that the Doom engine can't do what the build engine can do, because holy crap, are these two maps way more detailed than they have any right to be, considering how short and compact they are. And I don't mean Duke Nukem 3D detailed, we're talking modern build design, more akin to Ion Fury out of all things. That's how much care is being lovingly crafted in the texture and sprite work, countless interactable elements, and even some collectibles to boot. Bowling alleys have never looked this pristine, or in this case dingy. Now, you may ask why I group these releases together, but that's pretty much how KWC did it themselves, so I like to imagine it's like Doom's own equivalent to the grindhouse screenings of yesteryear. While Slime City is a wonderful excuse to traverse some urban landscapes, Hotfix takes it a step further by having you delve into your UAC-issued DOS computer to clear out your demonic malware. These maps may be linear in nature, but they're such a joy to play that the spectacle is a reward unto itself. And trust me, any map with Bjork in it is definitely getting extra points from me. If I was giving points to begin with, next map, Outpost 13. Now, I know it's not always great practice to judge a map based on your initial visual impression 5 seconds in, but it's hard not to admire the brooding invitation this level sets up for you, what with its lone shotgun and dead bodies sitting by a striking lighting sector, as cliche as the trope might be. For a ways off in the distance is the acceptance of your mission to rummage through the remains of Outpost 13. Developed by Artem Brullov, who I should add is a first-time Doom level designer as well, this level is essentially one big homage to John Carpenter's 1982 film The Thing. Now, despite not having watched the film myself, but... Okay guys, come on, I can't have seen them all, you know... Alright, who did that? Wait, come on! What I was trying to say... Despite not having watched the film and subsequently not understanding all the wonderful little references that this level packs, it didn't make traversing this chilling abandoned outpost any less thrilling. Brullov holds to claim experience working in the build engine, and it's obvious if you take a moment to pause in your tracks just about anywhere in this level. The visual storytelling left by the sheer amount of detailing succeeds in capturing that lived-in nature that makes you question what went so horribly wrong at this base you now trot over. Sure, this map isn't overtly challenging, but it doesn't need to be, because for me, the joy in soaking in my surroundings is just as, if not more, satisfying. Now, the next two maps I'm showcasing were originally entries in the Doom mapping contest, hosted by Legacy Z early in the year, with these two entries submitted as part of the Classic category. First is Entanglement, created by Demonologist. Now, I was a little apprehensive at first at the map's labeling as light slaughter due to my, well, to put it bluntly, lack of skill. But upon catching a couple of screenshots, and my soft spot for all things neon and cyberpunk, against my better judgment, I was ultimately surprised by how much fun I had. Now, this isn't a dig at slaughter maps in general, more so my dismissive aversion to the format, but in hindsight, this map doesn't really reveal its hand until the very last arena anyway. Back to the visuals, this map might commit to a look that isn't overtly original these days, but set to the backdrop of a distant urban landscape, it just really resonates with me, and its small bars also triggered my nostalgia for the opening level of Dark Forces 2 of all things.
Get out of my bar, you always cause trouble.
This map clearly also serves its battles as priority, as it's fairly linear otherwise, almost feeling like one of those Half-Life maps, quickly moving from one unique set piece to another. And it also sticks to that trope of foreshadowing its duels with a wealth of booby-trapped resources. The tease of battle is worth the trek though, for while I won't spoil it, the final arena was such a superb challenge to strategize around, even for a novice such as myself. So while this map may not speak to those addicted to slaughter, it holds a spot for actually enticing me to pursue the format further in the future. Moving on. Do you ever finish a map or map set and just sit back and unravel the scope and consequence of your actions? Well, if you don't, if nothing else, consider giving Vogel im Käfig a playthrough. I'm sorry German people, that was terrible. Developed by Slavius, this nerve-wracking and dense diorama was in fact the winner of the Doom contest in the aforementioned Classic category, and for good reason. The amount of dread and tension I felt while tiptoeing my way through this depressing city level was off the charts. To give you an example, your first encounter has you scurrying through a mess of a forest in search of any weapon, all while being chased by a hungry horde of spectres and pinkies, and it really resets your expectations going forward. This level reels a heavy focus on its narrative, with you tasked with investigating this mysterious city occupied by an equally questionable cult to put an end to occasional demonic attacks. This is all heightened by the commitment to this brick-laden urban theme, dripping in body horrors and varying rich interiors, all while teasing the path ahead through its carefully scoped window views. Coupled with the exciting, foreboding track choice, to call this map atmospheric is beyond an understatement. Now, the majority of the map's city labyrinth might not be for everyone, but it really propelled me to investigate every corner I could, even wading through the multitude of rodents roaming free and dodging plenty of cultist hit scan attacks. I won't spoil the rest of the level, but it really isn't often, for me at least, that a Doom experience leaves you to reflect further than just, hey, this was a pretty fun level, and for that, Vogel and Käfig has my respect. Making the longest of this year's entries is Eraser, released by Matt Eldrydge, who you might also know for their wonderful weapon mod showcases here on YouTube. I will admit I had my skepticism with Eraser at first, and that may be due to the fact that this map throws you in with little to no ammo, and only a few points of health. Essentially, this map doesn't hold your hand, and it shows too. You might have trouble navigating at first, but once you grab a map, you realize the sheer scope of what you're getting yourself into, so don't blame yourself for feeling the need to navigate with it open every so often. I don't want to reveal too much of this WOD, cause it really is an experience to uncover yourself, especially with the wealth of optional content to discover, which, trust me, is worth seeking out. Just don't get too bummed out if every corner doesn't have something worthwhile, but for me, even the little bits of ambience work so effectively in this context. I also couldn't help but admire the craft of the custom weapons and textures, which help sell this unsettling new world you arrive in. I easily found myself jumping at the distant screeches of unfamiliar creatures, cornering you like rats in a cold, harsh maze. It doesn't help that you need to rebalance your confidence in the map's new weaponry, especially as you scrounge around for what little ammo you can find. What I mean to say is, while this map is still very much Doom, don't expect to approach it with your typical guns blazing attitude. My first playthrough took me almost 2 hours to complete, but it was well worth the investment and eventual payoff. My hat's off to Eldrydge for the sheer amount of time that would have gone into crafting this mysterious labyrinth. Now, there were still plenty more levels to enjoy this year. I couldn't quite fit all of them in my discussions, so I figured we'd do a quick run through of a few others that I had plenty of fun with, so sit tight and we'll be right back. Last but not least is of course Nostalgic Entropy by none other than Ashtralfiend. And really, what else could have been my favourite level from this year? I very much wasn't the only one on this gravy train, but it was simply incredible to play something that really cornered all the makings of a memorable Doom level, and a vaporwave theme to boot. There was never any doubt. Well, upon booting into this 1980s oozing escapade, the sheer dedication to the craft is on display right out of the gates of the ancient Greek architecture. Inside you'll find a suspiciously empty mall with lots of uniquely furnished shops and plenty of secrets waiting to be uncovered. Oh, and how can I forget the arcade? If the mall isn't quite your style, you can always head up these cute escalators to find the apartment facilities, which house even more exciting arenas, as well as more of that Windows 95 loving aesthetic. The beauty here is that the map is one of those that gives you the freedom to explore not only at your own pace, but even let you lead where you take those expeditions. This simply isn't a level to rush through, rather when you're hunting down those last few enemies in a UV max run, you're telling yourself that you wish this experience could last even longer. But speaking of combat, I'm not gonna lie and tell you it's a walk in the park, but it's certainly not slaughter either. For me, these clever interwoven encounters were like a carrot on a string that kept me bouncing along excited for what was to come. If you do want to focus on the vibe, so to speak, don't feel any shame in lowering the difficulty, but just make sure to check every so often for secrets, else find yourself missing out on this map's defining secret minigame combat scenarios, as Ashtralfiend themselves put it. What this all boils down to is nostalgic Entropy's charm. I really can't stop gushing over the detail, the gargantuan amount of Doom cute, the custom vaporwave textures and sprites, even down to the sunglass wielding Doom guy provided by Skelegan. And it's all tied together by MBF21 quirks, making this grand spectacle really come alive. Now, Ashtralfiend had quite the productive year, as after receiving their 2023 Runners-Up CAC Award for Head Trauma, they went on to produce a total of 12 maps across 8 different projects. Now, why is that important, you ask? Well, the clear work that went into this creation is even more admirable when you consider that it was only one of many creations they put their year of time into. This has the scope and love of a map set multiple times its size, yet its focus as one grand experience really make it that much more memorable. I'm ashamed to say that I haven't been able to check out more of Ashtralfiend's output, but if they're even a fraction as good as Neo Retro, then it'll be all the more worthwhile checking out. So thanks for all of you who stuck around here to hear my rambling about my favourite single levels from the ever talented Doom community of 2024. Of course, these few selections were simply my picks for my favourites of the year, and I'm only one guy, so I couldn't possibly play all the amazing projects that have graced these last 12 months. So I implore you to leave a comment of your own favourite projects that you've played this year, and hell, it doesn't even have to be a single map, shout out whatever you want. I'd love to hear what everyone's been getting up to. I know I have plenty more on my list to undertake, and at this point I've just accepted that I'm never going to match the accelerating number of releases every year, and I urge the same of you. As long as it's Doom, it's good. And before I forget, the list certainly wouldn't have been possible without the help from fellow channels like Doomwads and Lady Mist Dragon for highlighting so many new releases each week of the year that I might otherwise have missed out on scrolling past on the Doomworld forums. Now, on another note, I'm just someone who loves to play and talk about Doom. I'm certainly not one to hold any authority on what makes a good or bad WOD. I'm simply here to express my opinion and joy on what this long-lasting community has to offer, and has continued to offer over the last 30 years. I know my channel is only in its infancy, but I'm already humbled by the immense support I've received from so many of you. I thank you all for the kind words, especially while I'm still learning the ropes and figuring things out. And as the year draws to a close, I'm excited to see what's in store going forward, and there's so many more things to cover, so thanks for dropping by and feel free to stick around. As for right now though, being the end of the holiday season, I figured I'd sit back and play a new, or at least new to me, seasonal WOD for a change. I'll say, this year I think I'll dive into Pineapple Under the Sea's Die Rowdy. I've been eyeing it for a while, and with over 40 levels of Christmas mayhem and starring Rowdy Rudy himself, how can I say no? So to everyone else, hope you enjoy the new year, and I'll see you all next time. Oh, not you again. What do you want this time? Well, yeah, I did actually, and I quite enjoyed it. I just wish it ran a little more consistently, you know, considering I have an RTX 3080. And look, I know nothing about engine optimizations, but I know that having to not look in a certain direction to ensure I get a decent frame rate somewhat affects my perspective of a level. Say, you want to play some Die Rowdy with me?